I left that fucking place.
You're bad. It is trashy, isn't it?
It is not the best.
it's pretty bad. How did it go?
Played one tournament, busted in 30 minutes. Played another tournament, busted in 2 hours. Played another tournament, busted in 4 hours. It's like my best performance. Played another, played the main, busted in 3 hours. Played the main again, busted in 4 hours. Played cash, 2 sessions, lost both sessions. Played online, lost miserably both sessions.
Oh, sounds like kind of a rough couple of days.
Oh, so bad. It's not fun.
Yeah.
That was it, dude. Not good.
Yeah, I've been there. I mean, like when I went to Atlantic City last year for like 5 days and just blew a bunch of money on tournaments. Basically, just was drawing dead in every tournament I played.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. It's really annoying. So there's this weird trend. The last 20 to 30 good hands I got, I never got to showdown because someone always folded.
Really?
Yeah. And lost like my last 10 all in, so it's really hard to win when those two things happen.
Yeah, for sure. When you can't show down your good hands, it's hard to win.
Yeah, they always fold. I don't know what the fuck's going on. It's very strange. And like my bluffs work really well too at the same time, so it's not.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Anyways, what's up? What you got?
Not too much. I've been feeling really good since our last session on Thursday. With every session I've played online, I've been feeling really good. I've started playing 6 tables again instead of 4.
Cool.
Haven't had timeouts. I've been it's weird. I feel like I've been acting really fast with all my decisions lately, and probably part of that is what we worked on with the starting ranges. But I think also part of it is just like, I don't know, I'm feeling kind of more confident lately. I've kind of got a little bit of momentum because I've been winning a little bit and just like feeling really good about my play.
Yeah.
I feel like I haven't been making too many big mistakes and.
That's kind of what happens to me. If I have something that like makes me feel confident about my game, I just don't time out, play really well, and it kind of just flows into like every aspect of my game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like I could just work on one area of the game, but like that just gives me confidence and makes me play like all the other areas better at the same time. It's weird.
Yeah, I finally won a tournament last night, so I can cut my hair and shave. So my girlfriend's happy about that.
Was that a thing? You can't cut or shave till you won a tournament?
Yeah, I was not getting a haircut until I won a tournament.
How long was that?
It's been a while. It's been like I've had like a second, a third, like 3/4. Finally won one. But yeah, it's getting like annoyingly long.
How much did you get with that 22 turbo?
It was like not much. It was like $440 or something for the win.
Okay, so
it's only a $1,200 guarantee.
I see. So you're up like since we started like 600-700 or something.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. As opposed to losing, so I guess that's good.
Yeah, it's definitely good, and aside from just like the actual results, I've been putting together runs and losing. I've lost a lot of pretty big flips deep and stuff the last few nights. Like I've had a bunch of runs where I end up just barely getting over a min cash because I lose a flip or whatever. But it just feels good to be going deep in a lot of stuff.
For sure. So you've done the ranges for all those positions. I mean, I can check over them quickly, and like if there's anything like glaringly bad, we can talk about it.
Yeah, so that sounds good. A couple of ranges that right away that I think I might need to adjust are my small blind, like 15 through 40, 50 big blinds, and then possibly a button as well from those same stacks. I think small blind I need to be a little bit wider with my opening ranges, but we can take a look and see what you think.
Yeah, sure.
So you want me to just start with under the gun and just go through them?
Well, we've done all the under the gun ones, right?
Yeah, probably. I didn't remember if we did all of them or if we just. Yeah, I think we did do all.
We did all of them. As for like 15 to 20, 20 to 30, I guess that's we can skip 15 to 20 because I don't need to see that for like pre-ante. I guess you don't get too many hands pre-ante 15 to 20, right?
Okay, so just skip that for all the positions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. So what I did was I grouped some of the positions together, like you said. I really like that idea to like kind of this sort of still the whole concept of smaller circles, like we talked about from the art of learning.
Yeah.
And I think that it makes sense just strategically too to have like the same ranges from MP 1 and 2 pre-ante off a lot of stack sizes. I think that like
they're pretty similar positions, and it just makes life easier.
Yeah, and then I did the same thing with hijack and cutoff, but then button and small blind I did separate because I think they're very different positions.
Yeah, there's an argument for like the difference between hijack. Like as you get closer and closer to small blind, like the difference of like one spot changes a lot. Like why do you think that happens?
Well, just because of I think just because of the math of how often your steals work. Like it's each position makes it far more likely that you're going to just get your open through without seeing a flop.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest reason.
You can think of another reason?
Position?
Yeah.
I mean, you're just going to play a position more often?
Yeah, so the cutoff might be the cutoff here. You know what I mean? For like, you might have to like delineate between hijack and cutoff. That's like debatable though.
Yeah, that makes sense. I could see why you might want to separate that out.
Yeah, because we definitely like should deviate between cutoff and button. Like it's like a definite. So hijack and cutoff might be something we deviate from as well. And you might want to group hijack into MP or something, and just throw like cutoff have its own range or something.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Maybe I'll have to make that change then.
Yeah, I guess like. Yeah, okay. So yeah, just show me some of your ranges.
Okay, so I'll just start with MP 20 to 30 bigs as this range here.
Okay, so pretty tight range, yeah.
Pretty tight, yeah, 13.6%, which might actually be a little bit too tight as a default range. I might be able to throw a couple more of these in here, like some of these, those all suited aces maybe or something like that, but...
Yeah, you could just run through these quickly because, like, unless there's something like glaringly bad, it's not that important. Right. And I want to do some like range construction post ante for like that 10 to 20 big blind stack we talked about, and that would help you with like range construction, like tweaking these ranges too. Anyways.
All right. Yeah, kind of all works together.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's 30 to 50 MP.
Yeah. Okay.
Adding some suited from 20 to 30, we add some suited connectors and all suited aces. 50 to 75, add some suited king, queen X, a few more suited connectors, one gappers.
Okay.
75 bigs plus from MP is this range. Actually, wait a second.
I wouldn't open like the king 10 off, but that's debatable. Whatever.
Yeah, I should probably be opening more suited cards instead and not the king 10 off.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, let me real quick, I can fix that. Just take that out and put like something like this.
Yeah, sure.
Like that.
Yeah.
And I just say overwrite, and that's fixed. Okay. So hijack cutoff, which I didn't separate. Maybe I should.
Yeah, let me see like what that leads to. So like that's your hijack range and your cutoff range.
Yeah, 20 to 30 bigs.
Yeah, like that feels like a good hijack range. Doesn't feel like a good cutoff range.
Okay.
Yeah, like I feel like you could definitely be quite a bit wider on cutoff.
Okay, so I will. I'll definitely make that change.
Okay, so
This is 30 to 50,
yeah.
50 to 75.
All right, let me see. Just skip to like button.
Okay. 20 to 30 button.
So what is that? What percentage is that?
I have to double click it. Hang on. 40%.
Okay, seems
like,
reasonable. With like 20, 30 bigs, yeah.
Yeah, 30 to 50.
How wide are you opening there?
It's weird. It goes from 40 to 39.4%.
Yeah.
Which seems weird.
Imagine it would be like higher. Like all those suited kings are probably an open. Like you probably open wider, but like just telling you that doesn't really help. I think we should just go right into this like 10 to 20 big blind like opening range discussion, and that will give you some clues to like help you perfect these and make these better.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, so let's it would probably be better if we could visualize like an actual spot. So I want to get deeper into our range construction for opening. Because when you construct these range, you're kind of just like, oh, let's pick some hands that are pretty, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like just trying to pick hands that I think will be profitable to open. But
okay, so, but you haven't done any like strategy, like testing how good your strategy is.
I have
You
somewhat
have
with hold'em resources, like for like push fold strategies, but that's about it.
Yeah, so you can test your opening strategy like too, even with like 30 bigs and
cool.
Definitely with like 15 bigs. Like, how do you think we can do that?
So how we can test how good our open performs with 30 bigs?
Well, let's say like 15 just makes life easier.
The only way I know of that I've ever really tried to do that is Card Runner's EV, and every time I try to do it, I spend like an hour and a half on it and then give up.
Yeah. There's ways to do it non-perfectly, with like ICMizer.
Okay.
So, good way to test your strategy is, what do you think is a good way to like know if your strategy is good or bad?
To know if a strategy is good or bad, to see like how exploitable it is, play against it, kind of like play against yourself, see how exploitable you're being.
Exactly. Yep. So let's start with like a range construction, but I want like the simplest spot possible we could think about and work from there. So what would be like the simplest like way to like test our range, like simplest spot?
You're talking about like any stack size or like
between 10 to 20, between like 12 to 20, like a stack where we're race folding.
I guess like blind versus blind would be pretty simple.
Blind versus blind is very simple. Problem is, I guess it's a bit more post flop intensive, and he could like flat and then you're out of position. So post flop's like a big part of the calculation.
Okay, that makes sense.
But why'd you choose small blind?
Just because you're heads up already. When you're playing blind versus blind, you're already heads up, so there's a lot of variables that get taken out right there.
Yeah, just one-on-one, right? You don't have to calculate like 8 players, like if you're UTG.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, right idea. I think button is easier, but you can argue small blind's easier too. So whichever one you want, because button we have to go through 2 players, but small blind we only have to go through 1. But then you get flatted more, right? So I'll let you pick one.
I choose small blind.
I choose small blind. All right, let's do it.
Yeah. Okay, so how do you want me to do that? You want me to open up something or?
Yeah, so you have resources?
Yes, hold'em resources, yeah.
Coolio.
Get that fired up.
And so yeah, we want to try and beat ourselves.
And if you want a real spot to go from, I have some spots pulled up here on PT4 that are blind versus blind.
Perfect.
If not, we can just make up an imaginary spot. But
If that helps you to visualize, let's do it.
yeah, it's probably going to help. These are pretty short stacked spots too. I think I have like just all these small blind spots. This is from yesterday's session, and these are the first few, and these are just all final table blind versus blind. So like if we just ignore ICM, this is probably
Okay.
decent spot to like right here. I only have 20, 10, 11, like 11 and a half big blinds right here.
All right. Quick question. So, does your opening range change here if it's 3 players at the table versus 9?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Does your opening range here change if there's 3 players at the table instead of 9? If there's 9 players at the table instead of 3?
No, it doesn't change because there's 3 players, but it does change because it's a final table and because of the stack size implications in ICM and all that. If it was just 3 players and where there's no ICM considerations or anything, no, I wouldn't change my opening range.
Okay, so it would be the same, you would say?
Yeah.
In both situations? I think it's drastically different.
Well, I mean, it's different because of ICM, but I mean, like, if this
Even
was
without
a
ICM. Let's just say it's just a 3-handed tournament, some shenanigans, and blinds are 300, 600 instead, you know?
Yeah, if it's just a 3-handed tournament, no, I don't think it should change because it's still like the same situation basically.
I think the situation is drastically different.
Really? Okay.
Yes. Why do you think I think that?
Well, I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense because if you're playing a 3-handed tournament, you're always in either small blind, big blind, or button. But you're still like the way that it's the same is that you're still blind versus blind. You're still heads up. You still have one person to play against. Where even if it's a 9-handed table and you're blind versus blind, it's still like one person. Actually, never mind. I just realized what a big difference is. Post ante, the pot's bigger because in a 9-handed table, the pot's bigger already because of the antes.
Exactly. So pull up just do quick push fold calc, and this will highlight it really simply. So do Nash shove from small blind with, I don't know, 11 bigs. Everyone else's stack doesn't matter, so just do 11 bigs and start with 9-handed. Just forget about everyone's stack. Just give small blind 11 bigs and big blind cover.
Okay, so
No, you gave them too many bigs, right? Small blinds are only 1K, 2K.
well, yeah, I was gonna change.
Oh, okay. Well, then you gave them 20 bigs then.
Oh, let me just do the actual situation.
Okay. That makes sense.
I'll just do the actual stack sizes.
That makes life easier.
Okay.
Alright, finish. So Nash should be around 70-ish, right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah. We're just playing push fold.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's going so slow. It's weird. Usually when it's just push fold, it would be done already.
Yeah. And then we're going to run this for 8 players and see what happens. Well, then we're going to run it for 7 and then see what happens. Then we'll run it for 5, then we'll run it for 3. I was going to do 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, but I think that's a waste. It's better to just group it together, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck? I need ICMizer. These fuckers are better.
I know, I don't know.
Alright, let me see if I have my sub still.
I think, is ICMizer faster? I think that would be slow too on my computer. I don't know.
Well, it doesn't run every single position at once, which is nice.
I
Hold
see.
on. Let me see if I still have a sub. I should. Unless payment didn't go through or something. Let's see. Yeah, because we're not going to wait fucking 5 minutes for that shit.
Yeah, usually it's not nearly as fast. I don't know why it's.
Is there raising as an option or something going on here?
No, I'm pretty sure I just did a basic hand. I'm trying to close out of my poker clients and stuff to see if that'll speed it up, but it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I need to renew subscription, motherfucker.
What else do I have open here? Okay, it's done.
Okay. So, what does it say you could shove from small?
66.6.
Right.
You were pretty close with 70.
Alright, so now run it for 7 players.
And this is actually going to be, I mean, we can actually shove quite a bit wider than that, I think. But
Yeah.
Oh, I can't, damn it. It won't let me do that. I have to do it this way. Hang on.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And I just gave push folds.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is running faster.
Yeah, I don't know why it was so slow the first time. It seems like it just decides sometimes to be really slow.
Close, like, do you have any other big data hog programs going on?
No, not really.
Alright, so it goes 66 to 64. That's like 2%. Now just go to like 3. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's really like kind of what I would have expected to happen. Just because there's less dead money to fight for.
Yeah, you could skip to 3 players if you want, or you could do 5. It's up to you. Okay, so we're doing 4 players. That's much faster. So there was a 60.
Yeah, makes sense.
At 4 players, so. I mean, we mostly shove like any 2, but like there's the same difference for button and stuff. Anyways. And then you could run this for like ante-size. If you made the ante like a stars ante, it changes, but every side you play on is like 10% ante, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's always 10%. Yeah.
But stars has all these differing ante-sizes, which adds like a slight layer of complexity to it.
Sure, yeah.
Anyways, it was a bit of a tangent, but I think it's important because I think people open too wide when they get shorthanded, and another thing is psychologically, I think people play more laggy shorthanded than they should too. So I think you should be like quite tighter once they get shorthanded.
Yeah, it's funny. That makes perfect sense. Like I know people who I've studied with who have talked about like how you should open wider here because of the three-handed spot, but it's actually should be pretty. I mean, intuitively, you should open tighter just because of the dead money situation.
Well, what do you think of their argument that you can't fold around and you can't wait for hands, you have to play faster?
I mean, I think that the ranges are the ranges. Like
yeah, exactly.
There's no. Yeah, I don't know how to say it, I guess. But it's like
ranges are the ranges, exactly. Like either it's EV or it's not, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyways, let's get off that tangent. Back on track. So
all right.
Small blind, raising range.
You cut out. I didn't hear what you said.
I was saying let's get back on track. We were constructing a raising range for like, let's say we have 15 bigs here.
Yeah, actually, if I just go a couple of hands ahead here, these are all like the same table, but there's more spot. Yeah, so like right here we have
25, which
that's
a bit more complex because then you'd have to calculate like how your range plays versus a 3-bet at a 3-bet shove. So
right here we still have too much.
Just visualize you have less chips if that's
Yeah, I could do that. That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe go to the different blind level if that's simpler, like a 2K5, like the 2500 5K, if that helps. Or
Or we could go like 3-6 would give us 16 and a half bigs. You said you wanted around 15?
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, so let's go 3-6. Does that sound good?
That gives them close to like 18. I want to do like 15 bigs. So just go back to like one of those two 2500 5K. So that's super easy to count and visualize.
Okay.
Alright, so yeah, I want you to type in what you think your raising range, what your raising and call range looks like here, and we'll see what your opponent can do versus it. So imagine you have 15 big blinds, so 75K, and the blinds are 2500 5K. 500 ante, yep.
And then that looks good?
Yep. Then, I don't know, you have to plug in your raise, right?
Oh, yeah. Shoot. I'm going to have to write it again. It'll go super fast right now, but then, or at least it should, but then I need to do advanced hand if we want to do raised folding.
Okay.
So my standard here is about 2.1x, so I'll just do that for the raise size.
So you would go just like 11K?
Yeah.
Okay. I think a lot of people argue that sizing's bad. Like
Really?
Too small.
Interesting. Okay.
I mean, what do you think could be wrong with that sizing?
What's that?
What do you think could be bad about your sizing?
I mean, they can just flat like all the time, but this guy's not going to, which is why I go with that.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's an exploitative thing, but...
Okay, so I agree that for like someone who's bad, this is a good sizing, but for someone who's going to call a lot, it's pretty bad.
I mean, just real quickly to show you, like, this is 80 hands, and this is all these hands are from this final table.
Mm-hmm.
He's folding his big blind 67% versus steals, which is way too much, especially since a lot of these hands are from short-handed final table play.
Is that a good sample size?
80 hands, it's not really great, but it's 4 of 6. So yeah, it's not much of a sample. I mean, I still think it's somewhat meaningful.
What's a good sample there? Why isn't that a good sample?
It's not a good sample. It's not a good sample because it's not conclusive. It's not enough trials to be really conclusive. But
how do you know it's not enough trials?
I don't. I can't prove that it's not enough trials, but intuitively I just feel like it's not enough to go on for. Like, I can't say this guy definitely. Like, I can't look at this and say if I played 1,000 hands blind versus this guy, he's going to fold 2/3 of the time when I open on his big blind. Like, I can't say that just by looking at this 4 of 6 sample.
Yeah.
But I can say, by looking at the 4 of 6, I can say that it's like pretty likely that he's folding his big blind more than he should versus my opening range.
Yeah.
So it's useful, but it's not like conclusive.
Let me switch this up. Let's say you had a 4 or 6 sample of someone calling your open in the small blind. So that's their cold call in the small blind. Do you think that's a more you think that's a better sample size?
Or I do, yeah. Well, I think I think those two are pretty close to each other as far as like how useful they are. It depends with someone calling their small blind. I think it depends somewhat on effective stack sizes, but I just feel like, and also that's I guess more of a spot where I would want to see what they get to showdown with if they get to showdown on any of those spots.
Let's just say you have 2 spots. One is this guy folds 4 or 6 in the big blind with 15-20 bigs. The other is this guy called 4 or 6 with whatever 25-30 bigs. Which one is more statistically relevant or accurate?
You're saying the guy that called 4 or 6 is in the big blind or the small blind?
Small blind.
Hello?
Yeah, small blind.
that's a tough question for me. Let me think for a second. I think they're both very relevant because I don't know, like for me, I'm not really. I try to really avoid calling out the small blind. I'm a lot of times either three betting or folding with most of my range in most situations. So I guess those both seem really relevant to me, like really important.
Let me give you a third scenario. I'm gonna make it more extreme. So again, six hand sample size, right?
Mm-hmm.
And guy raises 6 of 6 UTG. Of those three different.
That's the least relevant, I would say.
That's the least relevant.
Yeah, I would say so.
I mean UTG in a 9-handed game, not 3-handed.
Okay. UTG pre-ante, deep stack.
With Andy's 6 of 6.
With Annie's 6 of 6. I still think that's the least relevant.
What is the most relevant out of those three?
I guess if I had to pick one, I would say the small blind flatting.
Why?
Because it's not very, well, in my opinion, it's not very often a good strategical play to flat out of the small blind. Like, it's very rare that that's the best play when you're in the small blind, when you're facing an open. So if someone is doing that 4 of 6 times, like, over a large sample, they should maybe do it 1 of 6 or 0 of 6 times. Or if you extrapolate that out to a bigger sample. So it's a pretty big outlier in that they're doing it so often.
Exactly. How much of an outlier it is.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
So, like, the default flat there is probably, like, 4 or 5, and he's at, like, 66%.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And then the UTG spot, the default is probably, like, 10 to 15, and he's at 100. You know, so quite a big outlier. And the big blind spot, the default is like, you know, around 35, 40, and he's at 66. So it's not nearly as big as an outlier as the other three, right?
But I think that it's not a big outlier, but if it's above like 15 or 20, we're kind of destroying him with our opens. Maybe I'm a little off base on that.
No, you're right. Like, if the sample is accurate and he's folding 65% of the time, it's really good. But the other samples are more reliable because they're such big outliers.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, sure.
I don't know how much more reliable. Not that good at math, but that's just like one of the principles. Like, the farther they're deviating from the standard, the more reliable it is.
Sure, makes sense.
And it's a very important thing when discussing. Like a 10 hand sample size isn't the same for all. You know, if a guy 4-bets 6 of 6, that's way different than if they open 6 of 6 or from empty.
Yeah,
you know.
For sure. Yeah.
Tangent number 2. Let's keep going.
All right, no, that was useful, though. That was good. Good thing you talked about. Okay, so back over here on Hold'em Resources, I'll make my sizing 2.1 for this spot, I guess. We could argue 2. Really, we could argue all the way up to like 2.5. But for this situation, I'm going to be going 2.1 like always.
Well, so the problem is, like, we don't want to be balanced for someone who sucks.
I'm sorry, you cut out. I couldn't hear you.
The problem is, like, we don't want to be balanced for someone that sucks, you know?
Exactly, yeah. So if the whole point of this exercise is to look at balancing, then maybe I should change my raise sizing here.
Yeah, for someone who's, like, good.
Yeah, because this guy is not good.
You just open any 2 versus this dude, probably, then.
Yeah, you could almost do anything with any 2. Like, you could almost open shove, like, 90% and be fine. But, okay, so against someone we're trying to be really balanced against and not get exploited, our sizing should be a little bit different. I think maybe like 2.3.
Sure.
Reasonable.
Yeah, and if he's re-raising, make sure it's just all in.
Yeah, It will automatically be based on these numbers. Do we want to allow shoves? Do we want to look at our shoving range and our min raising range? Or I mean our 2.3ing range?
I mean, if we could look at both simultaneously, that would be nice, but I don't know if we can.
Yeah, we can. I don't know how long it'll take to run, but
let's just do one, and then we'll go to the shoving part.
Okay.
Unless you think do you think it's better to do both simultaneously, or?
I do. I think it would actually be quicker to do both simultaneously.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's going pretty fast.
So we're doing both simultaneously right now.
What's that?
You didn't plug in your raising strategy though. I wanted you to plug it in.
Oh, you do. You do that after that. You do that next.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you do that right now.
I feel like a fish. I don't know how to use this. Okay, so you're small blind.
Yep. So let me just collapse some of this stuff. Oops. Come on. Okay. So folks, to us, we can either make it 12K or we can shove.
Yeah.
So first, you want to look at our 2.3ing range?
Exactly.
Okay. So you want me to just like start plugging some stuff in here?
Yeah, and is this running like chip EV?
Yeah, it's just chip EV.
Okay.
I'm just gonna erase everything.
Yeah, so plug in your raising range for someone who you think is good.
Someone who I think is good. Okay.
Yeah, and start with your raise call range, and then go from there. So that's your raise call.
No, these bottom aces here are raise folds.
Yeah.
The rest of the stuff is raise call.
Yep.
Ace 5, I'm kind of borderline with putting it in my raise folding range, but I'm going to do it here. And then something like maybe something like that, maybe. And these, and these are raise folds. I don't know if I like doing all that though. Yeah, maybe just that. And then I'm raise folding the 10, 9, 9, 8 and the ace 5 to raise deuce.
Okay.
And then my shoving range. Want me to do that next?
Yeah, sure.
My just open jam range?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think ICMizer is a better program for doing this stuff because you can
Really?
see like chip EV if. Oh no, you can see chip EV of certain hands here. Never mind. Go ahead.
I'm just more used to this. I've tried using ICMizer a couple of times, and I just like this better. I don't know if it's just because I'm more familiar with it or whatever, but...
Okay. Cool, yeah.
Okay, what else was I going to put in here?
I'm sure you're jamming like a bunch of suited stuff, yeah. Doesn't have the slider to pick hands. You can't just click and drag.
That's the one thing I hate about it is you actually have to click every single hand that you want to pick.
Lazy programmers, yeah.
They are. So easy. So easy to add that shit.
Is it? Is it really easy? I had no idea.
I mean, I think so. I think it would be quite easy to do. I feel like I should have more hands in this range than this.
Yeah, so we have 75K at 2,500 5K. No ICM considerations.
Yeah. Wait, no, we have 100K, right?
We were doing 15 big blind scenario.
Oh shit, I'm doing the wrong range. Damn it. My bad. My bad. I was doing what he 3-bet shoves me with when I raise.
Oh, okay.
So this is the one I need to do right here. This is my open shoving range.
Why does it say you have 215K?
Because that's what I gave myself. And then I just gave him 100K.
Oh, I want to do 15 big blind spots, but I guess we could do 20.
Okay, yeah, I misunderstood what you were telling me when I was setting it up. to do 20. Yeah, I really wish this had the slider.
Yeah, this would have been done like a long time ago with Icemizer. Go buy a new sub right now. I had Icemizer.
Yeah, I guess something like this. I think I'm missing maybe some hands here that I would shove, but yeah, I guess this is pretty close to what I would shove here.
Okay.
And then the only other range I need to add is like when I raise and he three bet shoves what I call with.
Okay.
Which would be actually all this except for the worst aces and these. Why is 7 6 off in there? Okay, so basically I'm just calling with this top 10s plus ace jack, ace 10 suited, king queen suited.
Cool.
Okay, that looks good.
All right.
So I think I have to run this again to see how he can exploit us when these are our ranges.
Cool.
Maybe I should switch to Icemizer. I don't know.
It's I mean, resources is better for some things. I think Icemizer just does this better. All right. So what's going on here?
So what happened is it basically adjusts our villain's ranges to maximally exploit us.
Okay. So what can he shove versus your open?
Versus my open, he can shove this.
What do you think of that? If that's like his perfect counter strategy.
I think that he can't shove very much. I'm kind of surprised that this is the only thing he can shove.
Yeah, why do you think that happens?
Well, I have a pretty tight opening range, and I'm raise calling about 65% or so of the time when I open.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty tight range.
Yeah.
But I think that's fine. Like, I don't think that's really bad since I'm just shoving a lot of the other hand. I'm just open shoving a lot of the hands that are slightly worse than what I'm raise calling. And the reason that kind of the reason why I designed my raise call range this way is because I feel like in this situation, our villain is going to tend to just have a really tight 3-bet shoving range anyway. And I feel like they can't really... It's hard for them to really exploit us, it looks like.
So yeah, like if he shoves ace jack, ace 10, he's going to be making a mistake versus you, right?
Yeah.
If he shoves threes and deuces, he's going to be making a mistake versus you.
Yeah, here, let me close out of this. On this view, you can see just how much of a mistake he's making. So if he shoves ace-10 suited, he's losing 1.5 big blinds versus my strategy.
That's quite a lot.
Yeah.
So the counter argument is, I could say, well, if I had an opening range with only pocket aces, my opponent can't shove pocket kings versus me, because that's how good my strategy is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why is that argument invalid? And this is important when I did here. So we had this argument which seemed plausible, right? Like, okay, he can't shove these hands, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that seems plausible. But I took your argument to an extreme, is what I did. And now it seems ridiculous.
It seems absurd, yeah. Well, the thing is...
I wanted you to learn how to like tackle some problems. So it's not always true, but often if you try and if you're thinking about something, you take it from if you take it from like somewhere in the middle to an extreme and then look at it, that's a good way to kind of see if something makes sense.
Sure. Yeah.
Go ahead.
One thing that I really struggle with trying to run these sims is this doesn't allow him to flat, and I think that he has like a he has a non-zero flatting range when I open 2.3x here. He's going to flat some percent of the time. So that's kind of a flaw here, in that we're playing when I raise, he can either shove or fold, basically.
Yes, it is not perfect.
Sim, and I think that's a pretty big deal, actually, because there's a lot of the time he's going to flat.
It's a very big deal in the small blind.
Yeah. So that's what I struggle with. There's so many times I've run these sims, especially blind versus blind, and it just drives me crazy that I can't actually simulate the real world situation.
Yeah. So what do we do? So the situation seems too complex to solve. How do we deal with that extra complexity? Because it's too complex.
Well, I think that we deal with it by doing this, which is basically modeling the game as accurately as we can. And actually, to be correct here, you actually can allow him to. We can actually be more accurate here with holding resources. We can allow villain to flat our arrays, and we can give him a flatting range. And that's actually going to be quite a bit more accurate, I think. And the way it works, as I understand it, is holding resources will actually just treat, like, anytime I raise pre and he flats,
they'll just give him his equity.
What's that?
They'll just give him his equity.
Right, exactly. They'll just basically treat it like you played a bunch of hands and check down a river every time. And exactly. He just gets his equity.
Yeah, so what we're doing here, so this spot's really complex, but what we're doing here is, simplifying the problem. If we were to just go into this problem, first time we're trying to do this, and just be super complex with it, and I was telling you to, run out, all the different board textures that could run out, and run your strategy versus his strategy post-flop, and card runner's EV, and, all that shit. It would be just way too daunting and complex, initially. So what we can do is simplify it. So when something seems too complex, something seems abstract, the good part of problem solving is, one, being able to solve abstract and complex problems is good, but a good tool to deal with that is simplifying. So take, in the art of learning, he talks about this judo throw. It's a 10-step throw. Did I tell this story before?
Yeah, I think so, where he just focuses on step one. And just, it moves his hand 2 inches over and over and over or whatever.
Yeah, so he's taking something that's very complex and making it as simple as possible, right? And then he gets abstract as possible when he, does it to, subtle movements in his body and when he blinks his eye or whatever. Anyways, so if we can model it like this, which is just a simplified game, we can add complexity later on at some point, once this type of modeling gets real easy, if that makes sense.
Sure, absolutely. And that's, I've definitely been realizing that with my push-fold game. I've just been, before I started doing coaching with you, I was really heavily focused on push-fold studying.
Mm-hmm.
And also, somewhat 3-bet reshoves. But I've just gotten so much more comfortable with that stuff, too, which is probably part of why, like I said earlier, not timing out and making decisions much faster.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to multi-table when you have, not so many automatic decisions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so anyways, why did the extreme version of this argument look ludicrous? So I said, if my opening range is aces, then he can only shove kings. Why is that a really bad argument?
It doesn't make any sense to only open aces because it's pretty obvious. I mean, not obvious, but it's hard to get any value with your opens.
Mm-hmm.
If you open once in 100 hands or 200 hands, it's pretty clear that you're opening an extremely tight range.
So there's meta game examples. Yeah, you're not going to get any value, right?
Yeah.
And what else is wrong with that strategy? Why? Why is
I'm
it
trying to
stupid?
think of like a good way to explain it. Um,
This is important. So we can find like what's stupid about the extreme. Like we can find like what's like bad. Like
well,
bad.
the reason it's kind of silly to me is like, okay, so when I'm trying to decide what I want to do with my ranges, I'll pick like, okay, let's say like I'm in a spot where I want to have a raised folding range, a raised calling range, an open shoving range, and even like even let's say like even for a quick example, if we're deeper stacked, where I want to have even more ranges, where like I want to have like a raised 4-bet range, I want to have a raised call 3-bet range, I want to have a raised fold range, I want to have an open and then call 3-bet. Yeah, it's just generally the way I approach those spots is I'll pick a bucket to start with, so like that I'm most comfortable with. So
Mhm.
let's say like here I'm most comfortable with what I know I want to open shove.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I would decide what hands I'm going to open shove first, and then go ahead and decide what hands I want to raise, and then from there what hands I raise fold.
Mm-hmm.
If you only have aces in your raising range, that means that the rest of the hands have to go somewhere. So you're probably you're going to end up putting most of them like kings, queens, jacks, ace, king, all in your open shoving range, which is okay. You're going to make money with those open shoves, but I think that you probably profit quite a bit more by raise calling them.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just not designing. If you only have aces in your raising range, you're not designing your ranges to be the most profitable.
Yeah. So I'm gonna even take this to like a greater extreme, so you can see it deeper. What is, say I have 10 big blinds in the small blind, and my shoving range is just aces, and I'm like, hey, if he calls with kings, like he's just gonna get crushed here, and I'm gonna own him. And I don't
Okay.
have a raising range. That's just my shoving range. Why is that? Why is that play bad?
I mean, because you have to pay the blinds and antes, and if you just sit there and wait for aces, you're just gonna line and ante your way out of the tournament.
Yeah, you're gonna fold too much, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So the principles here are is one, meta game, you're not gonna get action if you're raising this too little. Two, you're folding too much, right?
mm-hmm.
If
Yep.
your strategy is he can't shove a hand he should definitely be able to shove, you're folding too much.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem with, it seems cool, like, oh, he can't shove ace jack, but it means you're folding too much. It means you're not raising enough.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. But the other thing we haven't talked, well, you kind of touched on it, but we didn't really look at what he can do versus my shoving range either.
That's true.
That might give us, I don't know, some more clues as to where we need to go. But,
Sure, let's do that.
okay, here's my shoving range. Here's his calling range. This one I think is pretty a much better picture than the raising situation because he has to call quite a bit to. I mean, he should be calling quite a bit versus our shoving range, but he's not. He's definitely not going to be. And I keep saying he, but I think just players in general
Yeah.
aren't going to be calling like 20 big blinds. They're not going to be calling all offsuit aces. They're not going to be calling king 8, king 9, king 10, queen 10, queen jack off. These worst suited queens and kings they're not going to be calling.
Yeah, so cool thing we could do is we can compare your shoving strategy to a Nash shoving strategy. But like you're saying, like people just fold too much. Even the best players are folding to a jam too much here, right?
Yeah,
That's what you're
for
saying?
sure. Yep. And even the best players are, but I mean, like this player, and this type of player is just to an extreme degree folding too much.
Yeah, so you could jam quite a bit versus this guy, even with 20 bigs.
Yeah.
I want to see what the Nash is, so
Okay.
hold on.
Are you running that on your side?
Yeah, I'm running that on my side. It's going to take you too long. You're going to have to fuck up your whole thing.
Yeah. Thank you for doing that.
Ran out of assigned Nash ranges for today. Fuck you. I can't do it. So yeah, it's way easier with ICMizer.
Do you mean, when you say Nash, do you mean if we're playing just a push or fold strategy? Or do you mean like
I'm saying like yeah, if you just plug in like a shoving like your just shove range for 20 bigs here,
Oh, I can do that real quick.
okay, it
That'll
won't
take
fuck
like two
up everything.
seconds. Nope. So that would be this range, 43.3%.
And he should call 25.
We should call 25.
So he can call a bit wider than Nash versus your shoving range.
Wider, I think. Yeah, 30. He should be calling 30% versus my shoving range.
All right, so that isn't that important because he doesn't call that last 3.5% anyways, right?
Yeah, 5%.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
but
doesn't. Yeah, no.
the important thing to look at is look at the EV difference he has with the top of his range versus
Okay.
both the different ranges.
So versus this is Nash we're looking at here. Aces is 15, Kings is 12.5. Ace Kings suited is 7.5. If we compare that to versus our range, 14.8, 12.9. It's pretty close. It's not much different.
So it's pretty close, yeah. So your
Yeah.
range is pretty good. But imagine if if your shoving range sucked, then his profit with aces and ace king and ace queen and ace jack are going to go up, which
Yeah.
like directly affect you. Without him knowing anything of your strategy, he's going to win more with top of his range, right?
What about like middle of his range comparing to? Is that pretty
Yeah.
important too?
Sure. I think your shoving range is pretty good. Let's go back and forth. So like queen jack suited 2.5, ace 10 5.5, ace 10 suited 6.5.
Okay, so remember those, and then I'll go to Nash. This is Nash.
So he makes less with ace 10. Ace 10 suited, he makes less. Queen jack, he makes less. So your range is actually a little bit on the strong side.
And like, what about like eights or nines? I think like maybe like sevens, eights, nines might be the bottom of his calling range for pairs.
So 3, 4, 5, 6 basically for those.
Three for sixes, sevens, eights, nines.
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So now versus my range.
4, 5, 7, 8.5.
Well, it's 2.8, 4, 5, 7, right?
Oh, okay, yeah, 3, 4. It's a little bit higher because the other eights was like 6.5, and
Yeah.
fives was sevens was like 5. So basically, it's pretty similar.
Yeah.
But everywhere else he makes less. So your shoving range is a little bit on the strong side. It looks like. It looks like he makes less money with most of his calling range.
Yeah. Looks like, and that's kind of surprising since I'm not shoving any of the top here either. Like I'm not shoving tens plus here, ace king, ace queen, ace 10 suited, and I'm still preventing him from making much more money with his calls, which is kind of surprising.
So how do we tweak our range? If are we fine with being weaker here, like having a weaker shoving range? Are there any hands where? Go ahead.
Did you say is it worth having a weaker shoving range?
Yeah, should we?
I think so. Yeah, I mean at 20 big blinds, I think so because we can make so much money with raise calling the top. Like if we look at when we raise call aces here versus when we shove them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, weird. For some reason, it's saying shoving them is more profitable, but I know that's not true.
That's probably with him calling Nash, which he doesn't.
Yeah.
And it doesn't factor in him cold calling you, which...
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so how do we weaken this?
Weaken my shoving range?
Yeah.
Well, we want to make my range weaker? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I thought that's what we were talking about.
I guess I'm confused.
Well, we said your shoving range is a bit on the strong side, and then I asked you if you wanted to make it weaker.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I thought you were talking about not shoving the top here. I thought you were asking me if that makes sense.
Oh, okay. No, I was asking if... So we kind of looked at it compared to Nash, like both our actual shoving range and the Nash shoving range.
Mm-hmm.
And like, we're a bit on the strong side, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, we could make it weaker for sure. We could widen our shoving range for sure. and I think that it's going to be profitable to do so probably because if we let me just cancel this for 1 second. If we look at what VB is supposed to call us with right now, there already is some stuff, a decent amount of stuff in here that VB is not going to be calling with, but it's not that wide. Like this range right here isn't that much wider than what he'll actually call with. So by making our jamming range a little weaker, we probably could make some more money because by exploiting the fact that anything else that gets added to the range big blind should call with is going to make us money since they're just going to be folding it.
Yeah, and they were already making. Well, are you worried that they're making more money with like top of their range now when you shove wide?
Yeah. I mean they will for sure, and especially since we don't have any of this stuff in here, we're missing the top. That makes it. I think that allows them to make quite a bit more with the top of their calling range as we widen our shoving range.
Do you think it's okay if they just make as much as they would if we shove Nash?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So we can just get it to that level because we're already he's already making less versus our range, right?
Well, he's making the same with the top. He's making less with some of the middling calling.
Oh, I thought he was making less with the top, too.
I don't think so. See, like, with the top here, he makes 14.8, 12.9, 11.8, and then over here he makes 15.2, 12.5, 10.9, so it's about the same.
Okay, it's about the same.
Yeah. He makes slightly more with aces, but slightly less with queens, so...
It looks like everything's about the same, does it?
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay, so it's not on the weak side? It's not on the strong side, your shoving range, though?
Not really. No, I mean, there's only a couple of middle combos here where he makes a little bit less.
Okay. So that's not a big deal then, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's pretty similar.
Okay. So how do you feel about your shoving range, then?
I'm pretty happy with it. I think that we could argue for widening it slightly more.
In an exploitable sense, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like, we could probably get away with all suited jacks, a couple more, the 7-4 suited, the 5-3 suited. We could probably throw those in there, and wouldn't be too bad. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy with this range.
Okay, so shoving range is pretty good. Just what about our raising range?
Yeah, there seems like there's some adjustment there that we could do. See, this is saying, yeah, never mind. Yeah, I think we could probably throw a few more raised folds in here, maybe.
Okay. Why do you think we could do that?
Because he can only profitably shove this range, which seems like too tight. It seems like it seems to indicate that we're not raising enough hands.
Yep, exactly.
And we could actually probably in our raising range we could probably put a few more raised folds in there and a few more raised calls,
which would affect your shoving range, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point because my shoving range is already kind of.
You're already you could really like your shoving range. So
I really like my shoving range, yeah. And I mean, let's just see if I just put these in here. I don't think those were in my shoving range.
Why don't you want to go King 9 off, Queen 10 off, Jack 10 off type hands?
Are those not in my shoving range?
Yeah, they're not.
Okay, yeah, those are better then.
I don't think they are. I'm pretty sure they're not.
Really?
I think Jack 10
Didn't like these?
Yeah, I think Jack 10 was in your shoving range, but not Queen 9 and Queen 10. I mean, not King 9 and Queen 10.
King 9, Queen 10.
Well, the question is, what are better opens here?
Well, I think that I think when we're looking at adding raised folds, these are better because of the blocker.
What about post slap?
they're not so good post flop, and that's the problem with this sim because there's no flatting. Um,
What do you think plays better post flop? Uh, 4-3 suited or king 9 off?
Probably king. I guess if you asked me king 10 off, I would say king 10 because the stack size is king 9. I think probably still plays a little better because of how short we are
Mm-hmm.
than 4-3 suited. Um, yeah, like even king 8, king 7 probably plays better.
Yeah, so like we're just gonna have a tendency towards high cards here, I think.
Yeah, makes
Right.
sense.
So yeah, let's say you added those hands.
But then we have to. Oh yeah, our call ranges should still be good.
Yep, it's the same.
Why did it put those in there?
I don't know. Take them off.
It must have auto-calculated it or something when I changed the other range.
It's shenanigans.
But let's just see what that does.
Why is it always? Oh, they always run 300 iterations or something.
Yeah, I don't know all the details of exactly what that means, but you can change it in the settings. You can make it run a different different number of those. But I watched a video a while back that recommended that you don't change it.
Okay. So what can he rip?
That's a little better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's actually quite a bit more reasonable.
Yeah, but he still can't rip like ace 10 and king queen off and most suited aces versus you.
Yeah.
Or king jack off. And he basically breaks even with jack 10, queen jack, and queen 10 suited.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So is that still the same argument that we're too tight, or do you think this is good, or what?
I think this is definitely better.
You certainly improved it, that's for sure.
It might still be a little bit. I might still be. I almost think like I might still need to raise a few more value combos and take those out of my shoving range. Like maybe like the ace 10 off, ace 9 suited, ace 8 suited.
What, you want to add those into our raising range?
Yeah, and take them out of my shoving range.
Why?
Actually, I think ace 8 and ace 9 suited is a little thin, but basically because I think that, well, the reason to do it would be because they're more profitable as a raised call than as an open shove. But actually, I don't know if ace 10 is really, I think that's actually maybe too thin as well, actually. I think ace 10 is probably better as a shove.
Okay.
Offsuit. So never mind, I actually don't think we should.
Okay, so you don't think that it's too tight still?
No, I don't.
So how do we know that it's not too tight? Like, how do we know that it's not bad? He can't shove a suited ace, that he can't shove ace 10, that he can't shove king queen, that he can't shove king jack versus you.
How do we know that that's not bad?
Yeah.
How do we know that's not bad? I don't have a good answer to that, to be honest. It's not bad. I mean, it's not bad because he can still shove a fairly. I mean, like 12% is not a super tight range that he can shove.
Well, so the thing is, the other one, like a lot of these are break even, so it's a little bit less than 12%. Right?
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So it's definitely a bit less than 10%, 12%.
Yeah. I don't know. I just keep going back to thinking about the fact that he's flatting a bunch of stuff that we're not accounting for. But,
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not the most perfect calculation we can make.
yeah, I should have just put that in the calculation, and we should have just given him a flatting range. I think.
I think that's pretty far off. It's just because he's in position, so it's quite a bit different. So it makes it difficult. So yeah, if say you're in, put yourself in his shoes. Like, let's simplify the situation, right?
Sure.
And you are playing versus someone, they open the small blind to 2.3x. You have 20 bigs, and you know you can't shove king queen offsuit versus them. Do you think that they're playing too tight? You know you can't shove king queen off, jack 10 suited, queen jack suited, queen 10 suited, ace 10 off.
I hate to say that they're playing too tight because, well, I know that for me, I'm shoving the stuff that I'm not raising, like all the hands that I'm not raising that are decent. So I wouldn't say that I'm playing too tight.
With your raising range specifically, not like overall strategy.
No, I wouldn't say they're playing too tight.
Why not?
Because king queen off isn't, I don't know, it's not an awesome hand. It's not like a great hand. So if I just can't shove king queen off, I don't think that that means they're being super tight.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can still shove king queen suited, I can still shove ace jack off, I can shove pairs. So I still, like, if I could only shove like eights plus ace king, ace queen, eights plus ace king, ace queen suited, something like that, or nines plus, then maybe I would say they're playing too tight with their raises. But if I can shove this range, I don't think I would say that.
Okay. Seems fine. So it's a very hard argument, which I'm kind of trying to avoid. It's like you're saying king queen off's not that good of a hand. I could say like that's a pretty good hand, and we would be kind of at like a stalemate, I guess.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean it's yeah.
So let's go back to your shoving range really quick.
Okay.
And I want to look at the bottom of it, right? So here's a question. Do you think any of these hands play better as just raises? How much are you making ripping these hands?
The only hands I really could...
Like, look at the chart and see how much you're making with the bottom of your shoving range here.
Okay.
So all those suited queens are technically not plus EV.
Mm-hmm.
So why are we shoving them?
Well, they're not plus EV because...
He calls 30.
Yeah, but in reality, I don't think he does, which is why we're shoving them.
How much do you think you make in reality shoving? Can we see that really quick?
Yeah, I just have to edit his calling range, and then it'll tell us. So I don't think he's calling any of these worse offsuit aces. I don't think he's calling the very bottom suited aces even. Maybe something like that. King 8, King 9 off, he's not calling. Threes. Oops. Something like this. I would even say like half the time he's folding fours. Something like that.
Okay. Go, 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 go.
So, I mean, now we can shove almost anything, but...
Yeah, so you're making a third of a big blind with those suited queens and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so here's the question. With the bottom of your shoving range, is it better to throw that into your raising range?
I don't think it is. I think that, like, I have done that somewhat with the worst aces that I have, like ace deuce through ace 5 offsuit I put in my raising range.
Well, so here's the question. Why isn't ace deuce through ace 5 in your shoving range when it makes almost twice as much shoving? You make almost twice as much shoving those hands.
Huh. Yeah, that's a good point. Um,
So
yeah.
the general
Uh,
principle is, so when we're looking at like constructing a raising range and a shoving range, we don't want to shove the hands that show a little profit. Um, why do you think that is?
that show just a little bit of profit. You
Yeah,
said.
yeah, let's show the bottom of our profit.
Um, well, for one, they could maybe be played more profitably other ways, such as raise folding or raise calling.
Yeah.
So we can realize more profit than a third of a big blind or whatever by throwing them in one of those other ranges.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's more likely we make more money with raising. Lower the profit comes from shoving, right? The less we make shoving, the more likely we are to profit.
I'm really surprised that those bottom suited queens and kings do so much worse than the offsuit aces. Actually,
Yeah, I expected that. Pretty, I was pretty surprised you threw those in. Besides the other ones.
it's something pretty recently I've been doing, but it's like something I need to work on some more for sure.
Okay, so yeah, greater chance raising is better. What else?
So maybe yeah. Oh, greater chance raising is better, and I mean, in a spot like this, there's real life dollars that you have to think about, and whether it's worth taking a third of the big blind edge for your tournament life when you're chip leader three-handed. That's specific to this spot, but just in general, ICM and tournament life implications are going to be there.
Yeah, so with ICM considerations, it's more likely to be negative EV, right? It's going to be even closer to not profitable, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So those are the reasons we throw those hands into the raising range. There's one other factor, though, which is like post-flop playability. So I think your suited queens, you might argue they play a little bit better post-flop, just being suited.
Yeah, queens. I think it does make a lot of sense maybe to have like a lot of these queen and kings, the worst ones, in our raising range, and just shove all of these aces.
Okay, so I'm gonna write this down for you to summarize, and I want you to like construct some ranges for more like spots like this, from like small blind and button. So, principle one, start with your shoving range, right? Look at what makes the least amount of money, and those are usually your raising candidates. Make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Look at post-flop playability, and those are usually like the hands you want to raise to, right?
And this is specific to around 20 big blinds, right?
I think, well, I don't know. Do you think 15 applies or 12 applies here?
Not as much. I don't think post-flop playability matters as much.
Okay, cool.
I think 15 to 20 is actually a pretty big difference in how much we care about post-flop playability.
Okay, so you can modulate that like as you see fit, right?
Okay.
So step one, just start with like what your shoving range is. 'Cause like you said, that's easier. That's what we should have started with, right? We would have came to this conclusion like right from the start, you know?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. And number two is testing your raising range and making sure he can't shove too much or too little versus it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And is there anything else? I'm trying to think. Any other points that we were going over?
Did you say you were writing this down, or should I write this down?
I was telling you to write it down, so when you construct ranges.
Okay. Give me a second here. Let me just make sure I have everything here. Button and small blind, you said you want me to look at these ranges?
Yeah.
15 15 to or 12 to 20.
Yeah.
Okay. Focus on post-flop playability with our raising range, making sure that villain can't shove too little or too much.
Yep.
Versus our 2.3x or whatever we decide to go with for sizing.
Yep. Start with your shoving range. Make sure you're not shoving hands that don't shove the bottom. Basically, hands that make very little and have a lot of risk.
Okay.
Also, factor in post-flop playability when you're deciding whether to raise or jam.
Okay.
And yeah, and just make sure you're not playing too tight with your raising range, or you're too tight or too loose.
Yeah, I think I actually do tend to, in general, be probably way too tight with my raising range and be raise calling almost all of it. I don't think I have enough raise folds.
Yeah, I think even your last range. I think even your last range is too tight. I think you should be able to rip I think him only being able to rip 10-12% of the time is too little. I feel like you should be able to rip a bunch of suited aces and king queen, king jack, and ace 10 versus you personally. But I didn't want to bring that up because it's hard to debate, and I don't just want to tell you shit without breaking it down.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So yeah, construct ranges for this, and this would really help you with your 12 to 20 big blind game. I mean, seems already a clear leak of you not stealing enough, when it folds around to you in position versus tougher opponents.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think small blind specifically, I just don't open enough.
Yep. Yeah, so construct ranges for here. Eventually we'll get to factoring in post flop into these equations, but it's
okay.
I think depending on how much work you do on it and get it done, the faster we can move to that. But
I think between now and I think we talked about doing a session on Saturday instead of Thursday with Thanksgiving. I'm going to try to do this, I'll use Hold'em resources, do similar to what we did today, but I want to add in the flat call option because I think it's pretty easy to add that range, and it just makes it a lot more accurate.
Okay.
And it'll help me, I think it'll help me construct my ranges faster, actually, and more accurately.
Okay. How likely do you think you'll be able to do this on your own? Do you feel like I've made it clear enough, gave you enough info, or do you feel like you've thought about it enough to understand the whole the major concepts behind it?
Yeah, I think I think I can definitely do it on my own. I might struggle a little bit at first with deciding what hands I want to put into my raising range. That's going to be the toughest part, but I can definitely roll with it.
Yeah. Okay. Another thing is test your shoving range versus Nash, right? Number 2.
Yeah. Compare it to Nash. Compare it to the equities they have when I shove Nash.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll write that down.
Okay, so yeah, hopefully this will be useful not only for constructing your own ranges, just understanding when people are exploitable. Knowing how wide you should open helps you spot when people are opening too wide or too tight. And allows you to counter more effectively.
I've actually already felt like I've noticed that in my last few sessions.
Oh yeah, with early stage shit.
Yeah, just people open. It's mostly late position when people are opening way too much. But EP it happens too.
Cool. Yeah, so we'll call this a session. Throw it up on the YouTubers. for the planet to see.
Very cool.
All right, peace.
All right, have a good one, and I will see you Saturday.
See ya.